You didn't know what a cell was. You didn't know what DNA was. You didn't even know that sex caused pregnancy. Not right away, not obviously, not the way we understand it now. The connection between one act and a baby appearing 9 months later isn't intuitive. It requires pattern recognition over years, maybe generations. And yet, somehow, ancient humans formed families. They raised children. They stayed together. They built bonds that lasted lifetimes. So how did they do it without any of the knowledge we take for granted? Let's start with the most fundamental question. Did ancient humans even understand where babies came from? The honest answer is probably not for a very long time. Anthropologists believe that the connection between sex and childbirth wasn't understood until relatively recently in human history. Pregnancy has a 9-month delay. That's a long time between cause and effect. And in a world without calendars, without writing, without systematic record keeping, making that mental leap wasn't easy. Some researchers believe this knowledge only became widely understood around 10,000 to 20,000 years ago. Before that, births may have seemed almost mysterious, tied to spirits, to the land, to rituals nobody fully understood. So if ancient humans didn't connect sex to babies, what held families together? The answer is simpler and more powerful than knowledge. It's instinct layered with observation, layered with need. Start with the mother. When a child is born, the bond doesn't require explanation. It doesn't require a biology lesson. It's immediate and overwhelming. Oxytocin, the hormone released during birth and nursing, creates one of the strongest emotional attachments in nature. Mothers in every human society, in every era, have cared for their children, not because they understood genetics, because they felt it, because the drive was built into them over millions of years of evolution. Mothers who abandoned their children didn't pass on genes. Mothers who stayed did. Natural selection did the teaching. Now what about fathers? This is where it gets more complicated. In a world without paternity tests, without the knowledge of conception, how did men form bonds with children? Partly through proximity. If a man and a woman stayed together and she had a child, he was present. He fed her. He protected the group. And over time, something interesting happened. He developed attachment to the children around him the same way humans develop attachment to anything they're close to. Through time, through care, through watching something small become something larger. The bond wasn't theoretical. It was built through daily life. But ancient humans didn't just form nuclear families, they formed tribes. Groups of 15 to 50 people who moved together, hunted together, slept near each other for years. In that kind of group, family wasn't just about blood. It was about proximity and survival. You protected the children nearest to you because those children were part of your group, and your group's survival was your survival. The tribe was the family. Here's something fascinating that anthropologists have noticed in modern hunter-gatherer societies that likely mirrors ancient behavior. Childcare was never just the mother's job. Grandmothers were critical. Aunts helped. Older siblings carried younger ones. The whole group had a stake in raising children because more surviving children meant a stronger group. Researchers call this alloparenting, care by people other than the biological parents. It wasn't a backup plan, it was the primary plan. So what about choosing a partner? Without romantic apps, without formal marriage institutions, without any of the systems we now use to organize pair bonding, how did ancient humans decide who to build a life with? Mostly through what was available and who was useful. Attraction existed. It's evolutionary. Physical signs of health, strength and fertility triggered interest. But compatibility in a survival context meant something very practical. Can you carry things? Can you find food? Can you stay calm under pressure? Are you someone the group accepts? Partnership was less about romance and more about function, though over time the two became deeply intertwined. There's also evidence that ancient humans observed patterns in nature. They watched animals. They saw that certain animals mated and then offspring appeared. They saw that when a female animal was isolated from males, no offspring came. Observation is a form of knowledge, even without the vocabulary to formalize it. Ancient humans were not unintelligent. They were intensely curious people solving problems with every tool they had. And the tools that mattered most weren't knowledge or language or science. They were emotion, proximity, and mutual dependence. You stayed with someone because you needed them. You cared for children because you were moved to. You formed families not because you understood the biology, but because the drive to do so was written into you before you could speak. We think of family as something we consciously build, something we decide on. But for most of human history, family wasn't a decision. It was a response to hunger, to cold, to a baby crying in the dark. Knowledge came later. The family came first. The